Hello, everyone. Have you ever felt like you know what you want to say, but the words just do not come out? Like the sentence is clear in your mind, but your mouth cannot follow? You try to speak. You open your mouth, and then you stop. There is a pause, a moment of silence, and in that moment, you feel something uncomfortable. You feel stuck. You feel slow, and sometimes you feel embarrassed because you understand English. You have studied. You have listened. You have learned many things. But when it is time to speak, everything feels different. Your thoughts do not come out easily. Your sentences feel incomplete, and your confidence begins to disappear. So you may begin to ask yourself a question. Why is speaking so difficult? Why can I understand, but not speak naturally? Many people believe the answer is simple. They think they need more vocabulary. They think they need better grammar. They think they need more speaking practice. So they try harder. They memorize more words. They review more rules. They try to speak more often. But even after all this effort, something still feels missing. Speaking still feels slow. It still feels unnatural, and this creates frustration. But here is something very important to understand. Speaking is not only about knowledge. It is about timing. It is about flow. It is about using patterns quickly and naturally. And this is where many learners struggle, because speaking is not something you build step by step. It is something that happens in real time. When you speak, your brain must work quickly. It must find words. It must build sentences. It must express meaning, all in just a few seconds. And if your brain is not ready, this process becomes difficult. So what does it mean for your brain to be ready? It means having enough patterns. Patterns that are familiar. Patterns that are automatic. Patterns that do not require thinking. When these patterns exist, speaking becomes easier. Words come faster. Sentences flow more naturally. But when these patterns are weak, your brain must work harder. It must search. It must build sentences slowly. And this creates hesitation. This is why speaking feels difficult, not because you do not know English, but because your brain does not yet have enough automatic patterns. And this leads to something very important. Speaking is not the first step. It is the result. It is what happens after your brain becomes familiar with the language. So instead of asking, "How can I speak better?" we can ask a different question. How can I help my brain speak more naturally? This is the key, because natural speaking does not come from forcing yourself to talk. It comes from building familiarity, from hearing patterns again and again, from understanding them deeply, from feeling comfortable with them. And when this happens, speaking begins to change. At first, you may still feel slow. You may still pause. But over time, something begins to improve. You begin to recognize phrases instantly. You begin to use simple sentences more easily. You begin to respond faster. And slowly, your confidence begins to grow. This is how natural speaking develops. Not suddenly, but gradually, through repetition, through exposure, through experience. Another important idea is letting go of perfection. Many learners feel they must speak perfectly. They want correct grammar. They want perfect sentences. But this creates pressure, and pressure blocks flow. When you focus too much on being correct, you stop focusing on communication. And when communication stops, speaking becomes difficult. So instead of trying to be perfect, focus on being clear. Focus on expressing your idea, even if it is simple, even if it is not perfect. Because speaking is not about perfection. It is about connection. And when you change your focus, something begins to feel different. Your mind becomes more relaxed. Your sentences become simpler, and your words begin to flow more easily. But there is still something important we need to understand. How do we move from understanding to actually speaking more naturally in real situations? And this is where the story begins to go deeper, from knowing to doing. Now that we understand why speaking feels difficult, we can begin to explore how to make speaking more natural step by step. The goal is not to speak perfectly. The goal is to speak more easily and more comfortably. The first step is to start with simple sentences. Many learners try to say too much at once. They try to express complex ideas, but this creates pressure, and pressure makes speaking harder. So begin with simple thoughts, short sentences, clear ideas. For example, instead of trying to say something complicated, you can start with basic expressions. I like this. I want to try. I am not sure. These simple sentences help your brain build confidence. And confidence is very important for speaking. The second step is to use patterns instead of creating sentences every time. Speaking is not about building new sentences again and again. It is about using familiar patterns. When you hear the same expressions many times, your brain remembers them as a whole, not as separate words. And when you speak, you can use these patterns quickly, without thinking too much. This makes speaking faster and more natural. The third step is to slow down your speaking. Many learners try to speak quickly. They feel they must respond fast. But speed is not important in the beginning. Clarity is more important. Take your time. Pause if you need to. When you speak slowly, your brain has more time to find the right patterns, and this reduces stress. The fourth step is to practice speaking in a safe environment. Speaking in real situations can feel difficult. It can feel stressful, so it is helpful to practice in a comfortable space. You can speak alone. You can speak out loud while listening. You can repeat sentences. This kind of practice builds familiarity, and familiarity reduces fear. The fifth step is to repeat what you hear. When you listen to English, try to repeat the sentences. Not perfectly, not quickly, just naturally. This helps your brain connect listening and speaking. And this connection is very important, because speaking grows from listening. The sixth step is to accept mistakes. Many learners are afraid of making mistakes. They feel embarrassed. They feel uncomfortable. But mistakes are part of learning. They are not something to avoid. They are something to learn from. When you accept mistakes, your mind becomes more relaxed. And when your mind is relaxed, speaking becomes easier. The seventh step is to build confidence slowly. Confidence does not come from one moment. It grows over time. Every time you speak, even a little, something changes. Every time you try, your brain becomes more comfortable. And slowly, fear begins to disappear. The eighth step is to focus on communication, not perfection. The purpose of language is communication. Not perfect grammar, not perfect sentences. So when you speak, focus on your message. What do you want to say? What do you want the other person to understand? When you focus on meaning, speaking becomes more natural. Another important idea is consistency. Speaking improves with regular practice. Even a small amount of speaking every day can create progress, because the brain learns through repetition, and over time something begins to change. You start to feel more comfortable. You start to respond more quickly, and your sentences begin to flow more easily. At this point, you may begin to notice something interesting. You are thinking less about grammar. You are focusing more on meaning. And this is a sign of progress. But there is still one important part left. How do we turn this practice into natural speaking in real situations? Because practice is one thing. Real conversation is different. And this is where the story moves forward. From practice to real communication. So now we come to the final part of this story. How can you take everything you have learned and use it in real conversations? Because understanding is one thing, but speaking with another person is different. Real conversation is not slow. It is not controlled. It moves quickly. And this is where many learners feel nervous. They feel pressure. They feel afraid of making mistakes. And sometimes they feel like they are not ready. But here is something important to understand. You do not need to be fully ready to start speaking. You become ready by speaking. This is a very important shift in thinking. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, you begin with small steps. Simple conversations, short responses, even a few words are enough. Because every time you speak, something changes. Your brain becomes more familiar with the process. It becomes less afraid, and slowly, speaking begins to feel more natural. Another important idea is accepting the flow of conversation. In real conversations, you will not understand everything. You may miss some words. You may not catch every sentence. This is normal. Even in your native language, you do not understand everything perfectly. So instead of trying to understand everything, focus on the main idea. Focus on the message. This reduces pressure. And when pressure is reduced, your mind becomes more relaxed. And when your mind is relaxed, you can respond more easily. Another key idea is listening while speaking. Speaking is not only about talking, it is also about reacting. When you listen carefully, your brain receives patterns, and these patterns help you respond. So conversation is not only output, it is a balance of listening and speaking. Another important part of real speaking is accepting imperfection. Your sentences may not be perfect. Your grammar may not be correct, but communication can still happen. And this is what matters most. Because language is not about perfection. It is about connection. When you connect with another person, you are using language successfully. Another important idea is building confidence through experience. Confidence does not come from studying. It comes from doing. Every conversation, even a small one, builds confidence. Every moment you speak reduces fear, and slowly your mind begins to change. You become less afraid. You become more willing to try, and this creates progress. Another key point is patience. Speaking naturally takes time. It does not happen in a few days. It grows slowly, through repetition, through experience, and through consistent effort. There will be moments when you feel stuck. There will be moments when you feel slow. But these moments are part of the process. They do not mean you are failing. They mean you are learning. So instead of feeling frustrated, you can remind yourself of something simple. Every time I try, I am improving. This mindset is very powerful because it allows you to continue. And continuation is the key to progress. Another important idea is enjoying the process. If speaking feels like a burden, it becomes difficult to continue. But if it feels like a natural part of your life, it becomes easier. So try to make speaking part of your daily routine. Speak to yourself. Describe your day. Use simple English in small moments. These small actions create strong habits, and habits create natural ability. Over time, something begins to change. You speak with less hesitation. You respond more quickly, and your sentences begin to flow more naturally. At this point, speaking no longer feels difficult. It feels normal. It feels like part of you. And this is the result of everything you have done. Not one big effort, but many small and consistent steps. So if you remember one thing from this story, remember this. Speaking English naturally is not about being perfect. It is about continuing. It is about trying. It is about allowing your ability to grow over time. And when you do this, something beautiful begins to happen. Your words begin to flow. Your confidence begins to grow. And English becomes something you can truly use. Thank you for spending this time with the story. And as always, see you in the next story.